We're trying to get sales or make sales easier, or at least bring those conversations in the door. In order to do that, you need to entertain, educate, provide value, as they say. You want to charge what you're worth, you want to charge what you're going to make, and whatever goal you have to know that your prices have to get you to that goal. The people who you hire should be able to solve problems fast. I had a lot of mentors and I had a lot of guidance. I couldn't get or couldn't understand how to keep any of them around. There are a lot of people willing to help, but my mentality was always work hard, do it on your own. Work hard, do it on your own, and don't bug other people with your problems. If you're chasing followers, that's nonsense. What you're chasing is sales, and the way to do that sometimes is by getting followers, getting saves, getting likes. But if you get 2 followers and one of them buys your program, you don't need a ton of followers. You need 100, and then you get 50, your year's paid for. Hey everybody, and welcome to the Athletic Startup Podcast. My name is Mark Burrick, and on this show, we learn how to turn your fitness or athletic passion into a business. So we're talking to fitness enthusiasts, athletes, coaches, and people who want to take their knowledge from their athletic hobby area of their life and turn it into a business or to monetize it. Now, if you know a little bit about me, I have been a professional beach volleyball player, and I turned into a coach and developed camps, clinics, in-person classes, and online courses through Better at Beach Volleyball, and I want to get better at it. So I'm talking to as many people as I can to see what I'm missing, and maybe that's why you're here too, to try to get yourself to the next level and learn from our guests. But before we get to a bunch of guests, I think you guys got to know me a little bit. So in this series, I'm just going to talk from my experience, and in later episodes, we're going to introduce a whole lot of guests who have done it at a much higher level than I have. So I'm going to run through a couple of questions that basically, my producers needed to know. So here we go. At what point in your life did you decide to start your own business? Okay. I was playing professional volleyball overseas, and while I was playing indoor overseas, I started to work with vacation camps, people who were running vacation camps. Now, in the beach volleyball world, people will pay to go to a hotel in another country or a resort or somewhere warm where they can play beach volleyball and learn from pros. So I was doing that for, I believe, 3 different companies in my 20s. And that was during my breaks or off time from playing my pro indoor season. You know, what better off time could you have than going to the beach, playing your sport, teaching your sport, and hanging out with people who think you're the bee's knees in your sport. So that's how I got started. And I was also doing a lot of personal training. I went to school for exercise science at George Mason University. And through that education, I started personal training, and then I got into nutrition. And I also started some performance training with various clubs and various athletes. I found out pretty early on that I didn't want the generic gym going client. It just wasn't my bag. I really wanted to talk to athletes who loved being in pain and pushing themselves, and who were turning this into a sport. So I kept trying things. I also, when I was 22 years old, Brandon, my partner at Better at Beach, he came to my summer house, and we ran a series of indoor camps. So I've always been trying to coach in some way. And when I decided to make the jump for beach volleyball to try to pursue Olympics and try to pursue it at a high level, I had to move to California. I was hanging out in the apartment in Sweden with my good friend, and he was also my boss. His name's David Strand, and he runs volley tours over in Europe. Now, I was hanging out with him, and we were just ideating on it. We wanted to come up with logos and an idea where we would bring elite players, people who really wanted to take it to the next level, but were already at a high level. And we wanted to bring them out to California. And in one click, you've got 7 days of training, you've got your accommodation, you've got your opponents and training partners, and you've got your coaching. So that's how I started my company. Back then it was called Volley Camp Hermosa, and it didn't stay in that format, but now we have a version of that format. The pool of elite players is a bit small to build a business on, and I learned that pretty quick. I was hustling, I was grinding. I turned it into an Airbnb as well to fill the nights when I didn't have volleyball players. And I mean, I spent hours, morning hours, like 12 midnight to 5 a.m. hours during my professional beach volleyball life, cleaning toilets, changing sheets, and it just became unsustainable. So we had to change the model, and we started running local classes instead of doing that. But that was about 2 years of getting my butt kicked down the road. Along the way, I realized that a lot of players had the exact same questions, and no one was answering this. So I was talking to people my age in their 20s and in their 30s, and they kept asking the same questions about beach volleyball. And I was like, man, how are we not at the level yet where people are not getting good quality information? And I knew that from my experience playing on the AVP and playing on the World Tour, and the conversations that we were having at that level just kind of blew all of my old conversations out of the water. So we talk about things at the high level that, let me go back for a second. We make sure that we go for fundamentals, right? Elite players are still talking about fundamentals, but the conversations that you'll have at the AVP level, you won't even get to that point until you've mastered your fundamentals. And so most of the conversations and questions that I had to do with fundamentals. So I said, you know what? I'm tired of answering these questions, and the world deserves to know what we talk about in the player's box, in the player's tent on tour. So in order to do that, I had to equip the entire world with the best answers to the easiest questions. And so we started pushing things onto YouTube, creating some YouTube videos. Now, one of my friends works for Tony Robbins. He's like one of his 5-person team. And I was fortunate enough to get an early push from him that I had no idea how to implement. So if you watch one of my YouTube videos, one of my volleyball YouTube videos from 2015 or 16, it's awful. I mean, I'm slow. I don't know why I'm shooting a video, but he said, this is the way forward. This is the way for you to scale. And like I said, I filmed 2 or 3 videos, and then I didn't film another video for another 3 years until I made the decision to equip everybody with great answers. Now, around that time, when we were starting to get on YouTube, and I said, we're going to make a video course. We're going to make a passing course. That's exactly when COVID hit. So fast forward, because there's nothing else we can do. We can't make money in person. So the only way that we can keep eyes on ourselves and our business and bring in some income was to just chuck every piece of video we had and every piece of knowledge and every interview onto YouTube. And that push brought us to a complete new level of popularity and people asking us questions and viewers, and it still does. So our YouTube channel is quite strong. It's not millions of subscribers, and I'd love to hear from other volleyball experts and other sport experts who have gotten those numbers. And I know that with the right team we could, but right now that's not our focus. Okay. So once that happened, and basically we had a run of COVID, 2 years of not being able to do much, finally Florida was open. And so we ran a camp in Clearwater Beach in Florida, and people were so pumped to have volleyball back. It wasn't allowed in their states for some people, but in Florida it was legal, and we were good to go and play sports and hang out again. And the attendance at that first camp said, whoa, okay, this is a whole nother level of our business. So instead of running these really small, tight-knit camps, we can now open it up to a much bigger attendance number. And so now we run camps that are anywhere between 40 and 70 people, and we're still growing. And we also run 3-day camps now. So we've got 7-day camps. We've got 3-day camps. We've got a great website in terms of SEO, really popular on YouTube in the beach volleyball world. And we're starting to kick some butt on the Instagram side of things. I had no contingency plans for failure or success, I had no contingency plans when I started my business. There was nothing else. I remember this very specifically. I had $2,000 in my bank account. I had moved out to California. I had put my, so when I moved out, I think I had maybe five, but you had to put a down payment, a deposit on your apartment. So I put that and I had $2,000. That means that I was 1 month away from having nothing left in my bank account because I would have to pay next month's rent. I don't know how I qualified for that apartment, but as far as contingency plans, there were none. It was backs against the wall. You're on death ground, Sun Tzu, for anybody who's loving the art of war out there. And I needed to succeed. Now, a lot of times in my life, in my business path, the moment where you are back against the wall and you absolutely need to succeed right now or something bad is going to happen, that is an incredible push. When you see yourself running out of money and when you see that your employees are about to not have a salary and maybe you can't pay rent. So I read one of Richard Branson's books, and basically he said that when your company or you are in trouble, a lot of people shrink down and they put up all of their defenses. His goal was always to come out swinging and throw everything at the wall and make one more big play, a fireworks show, because only something big could bring in big attention, could bring in big money. And I always remember that part of that book, and it's inspired me a lot. And I know that it's true from my experience. If you back down and you put on your defenses, yeah, maybe you'll stave it off for a while, but you're also not going to hit the next level. So for me, having my back against the wall several times, getting a couple credit lines shut down, a couple of loans called in early, and then seeing that we were not going to survive another month or two in terms of finances, those have been the biggest moments of push and creativity and hours. And I appreciate those times, as stressful as they are. When I first started my business, I didn't give myself any sort of time window to success. I didn't even have an idea like it was going to be a long-term business. All I knew was I wanted to play volleyball. And in between that time, I wanted to coach and I wanted to stay on the same court. I knew that I would lose time in transit, like driving to a different place. And I wanted my entire world to be volleyball and to be on the beach. So I wanted to hang out with volleyball players. I wanted to coach volleyball players, and I wanted to train. And I knew that I could do that if I did the volleyball training successfully. But there was no time limit. There was no failure. And I think that that's the advantage that I had, because I was able to keep pushing even through times of really low income, because it was just my life. There wasn't another option in my mind. Maybe there should have been. Maybe by now I would have had a lot more wealth had I gone straight into real estate and done that at 100%, or investing or finance or pharmaceutical sales or something. But for me, it was my life. It was my passion. So I wanted to keep going, and I kept going. And I've been pushing this along now for 9 years. My company, Better at Beach, basically solves the problem of adults not having good enough coaches. Now, most of the coaching is just somehow reserved for juniors. And I appreciate that. And I love working with kids and juniors. But if you go to any town or any place where there's beach volleyball, it's hard to find good quality coaches. And I knew that from my personal experience, and I knew that from the people who I had been talking to. So I wanted to create a company and a place where adults could actually feel like athletes again. It's hard as an adult, because after high school, sometimes after club, after high school, after college, you kind of lose your sport identity because you don't get coached anymore. You're not a part of a team anymore. And anytime that I'm being pushed by somebody athletically, or I feel like I'm learning, I get more confident. I get more interested in everything in life instead of just kind of riding out whatever life gives me. So I love the idea of progression, and I know that volleyball players in my world absolutely wanted progression. They want coaching. They want to learn. And I like giving them that feeling of confidence because I know where it comes from in me. Currently, I'm doing jiu-jitsu and I'm back in tennis. And that feeling of progression that I'm actually learning and I'm being active and healthy, that's that's everything to me. That's everything to my joy. And when I'm not in that moment, yeah, I get down on myself. I get down on life and I get bored. Pricing for my company was and still is an absolute challenge. But here's how I found my way. When I first started, I knew that most people in the 20 to 30 stage or in the late teenage stage and trying to get to the pro level, they were just out of college. They didn't have much money, so I knew I couldn't charge a lot. Also, I thought like me. Here is a huge mistake that entrepreneurs and business owners make, and I want you to avoid it. Not everyone thinks like you. Whatever you think is automatic in your life, I guarantee that there are a billion other people that think that the exact opposite is automatic. So, how does this relate to pricing? Well, when I came out to California, I was willing to sleep on floors. I was willing to sleep on couches. Shoot, if I had to share a bed with my beach volleyball partner, I would if it meant that we were at the tournament or we were getting good practices, or at least I could live near the beach. So I thought that every person thinks like that. The first time that changed was on one of our Airbnb reservations. I had 4 bunk beds in one room and 2 twin beds in the other room, and I charged by room separately. And somebody on Airbnb said, "Hey, I see that it's $50 a bed. Can I just rent out both rooms and have the apartment to myself?" And my brain went, this dude wants to spend $300 for his own apartment per night. And I thought that that was crazy because it was never something that I could afford at that time. And it was never something that I would want to do. Why would you want to spend that much money? But for him, that was comfortable. He probably made a good living. He probably had the backup of a bank account that I had never had in my entire life. So he thought a completely different way. And that moment is when I started changing my thoughts and how I would price things, because how I was thinking was, I guess, a poor or a middle class or, blue collar mindset. Where, if you charge me $50, that's on the pricey side to share a couch. Like, I did not want to spend $50. And I was okay on floors, tile floors, whatever it was. So I was charging way too little in the beginning to survive. I was charging only what I thought people like me could afford. And what that meant was I was giving crappy service to too many people. I don't want to say I was giving crappy service, because I was giving really good coaching. I was putting every hour I could into it, and I was cleaning everything as best I could. But because of the prices I was charging, I couldn't pay for a cleaner. So I cleaned apartments and beds the best I could. Okay? I couldn't pay to have, these big nights out, because what we were charging them didn't allow me to bring food to the house or order sandwiches to the beach so that they could have a break. So we'd walk maybe half a mile or a mile to all of our lunch places and to all of our dinner places. And looking back on it, it was a nice, endearing experience. But the way we currently do our camps, it is far from that, because we want to make sure that we're making things as easy as possible. And now a lot of our dinners are optional. When we go for a walk, it's not because we have to, it's because we want to. So pricing is tough to nail down. Everyone will tell you test, 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 and they don't give you the very easy path to testing. And no one sits you and locks you down and says, try this one thing for this many weeks or this many months and see how you can make it work. If you're like me, then your mind thinks about everything you can offer, thinks about all the different services you can provide, thinks about every different pricing model, and you get bombarded trying to make too many things work at once. So charge more, Don't assume that everybody thinks like you. That's what market research means. Actually go out and say, hey, what would you pay for this? Don't be shy about that. Okay? Ask people what they would pay, and then try to charge more so that you can find people who want to be with you, who can afford it, who aren't going to nickel and dime you, and who you're not going to have like arguments and friction with. The clients that are able to pay more are comfortably able to pay more. And everyone else who you serve, when you feel that somebody needs it and absolutely needs it, serve them. Do it. Give them the discount. Go from your heart in that moment. But remember, you want to charge what you're worth. You want to charge what you're going to make. And whatever goal you have to know that your prices have to get you to that goal. And for most people, unless you're realistically going to get 1 million subscribers, $1.99, $5.99, $10, $20 is not going to do that. You're probably going to need to increase your prices. And that's what we found. We found that we can increase our prices, offer a lot more things, and pack in a bunch of bonuses instead of just coaching or just training. So now when campers come to us or when people come to our clinics, they're pretty surprised by how much they get in addition to just coaching and how smooth things run. But we can only run things smoothly, and we can only give them more swag and more equipment and more training materials if we charge more. So otherwise we'd be bankrupt. So increasing your prices will give you the space you need to serve your clients or your customers better and offer more to them. But if you don't do that, then you're going to be grinding, you're going to be tired, you're going to get burnt out quick. About 1.5 years or 2 years into doing the volleyball coaching and making a little bit of money, I started seeing that people had these houses on the Pacific Ocean in the mountains that were watching the sunset, and there's so many houses in the world. And I thought, how can there be this many people who are that much smarter and better with money than I am? I know that I chose beach volleyball. I know that's not a high income thing, but somebody's got an easy button somewhere, and I needed to find it. And for me, that easier button came in real estate. And so my process has always been take as much as I can get from beach volleyball, and as soon as I've got enough to afford a down payment or something to get a house, a piece of real estate, that's what I do. And I've set a goal for myself to try to get one piece of real estate every year. It doesn't always line up. I'm almost hitting that average, but that's where my money is going. So it comes in through beach volleyball and our camps, classes, and courses, and then I hold on and I scrape by and I get enough to get a down payment. And then houses appreciate, and so I'm able to gain equity, and then I pull money out of the equity, and then I'm able to get another house a little bit faster, a little bit sooner, along with any extra income that we get from beach volleyball. So now in terms of revenue, I'm bringing in, 10 times what I brought in the first year, but now I've got employees. Now I've got mortgages. I've got cleaning fees. We've got a bunch of people on staff and contractors and everything. So there's more money coming in, but I still haven't really clicked that very easy button, even though I'm proud of where my net worth is now after doing this process. I live cash poor, but I've got a lot of assets, and so I try to keep building that for myself and my family. I had a lot of mentors, and I had a lot of guidance when starting my business and going through my business. But I'll tell you this, I couldn't get or couldn't understand how to keep any of them around. There are a lot of people willing to help, but my mentality was always work hard, do it on your own. Work hard, do it on your own. And don't bug other people with your problems. Sucks, because like I said, a lot of people were willing to help me along the way. And one of my friends who I met in Australia, she said that in gymnastics, the first thing you do and the most important thing you do is you find the best coach and the best training program. Then you figure out your food, then you figure out where you're going to live, and you do all that, because that's how important it is in that world. And I said, that's really important if you're chasing something. The first thing and the best thing that you can do is find the best mentor, the best teacher, the best coach. They are going to make everything 10 times faster than you. They've made every mistake. If they're a coach, they've seen other people who have made all the mistakes. Maybe you've experienced this, maybe you haven't, but after you do something for the first time, the next time you do it, you can do it like 80% faster. Now, I just built a beach volleyball court in the back of our Airbnb in Florida, and it was hard. It took weeks. There was a lot of thinking, a lot of what do we do? How do we rent equipment from Home Depot? How do you learn how to drive a skid steer? If I had to do it again, I would do it in a quarter of the time, easily, and way more confidently. So the fact right there, in that little example, the fact that a coach or a mentor or somebody who's done it before, if you keep them around and you utilize them or pay for them, or you take out a line of credit to help pay for that person, they're going to save you 80% of the time you could have or would have spent trying to build your business and making all of those errors. I will for sure say that making errors teaches you. Okay. If you don't make mistakes, then you don't learn. But maybe you can just skip mistakes so that you don't have to learn how to navigate them. So there's two schools of thought in that, right? The more you do, the more you're capable of in the future, and you can understand more languages. And now I can talk to SEO people. I can talk to building volleyball court people. I can talk to athletes. I can talk to people who have built YouTube channels. I understand sales and marketing, right? But it took me a long time to get here. So going back, would I have kept the same bumps and bruises or gotten a coach to accelerate me and then, bit the bullet early, paid early to not make all of the mistakes and the slow processes? 100%. I would go back, I would learn less, and I would get my business thriving faster. I'm thankful that I learned all those lessons, and that's why I'm starting this podcast, to try to learn from other people's lessons so that we can implement them here. And now I've also surrounded myself, and I'm willing to pay more for people who can blow me away with their explanations of their expertise. So if I need to ask you to dumb it down a little bit for me, and you can do that successfully, and then you show me that you're doing it, you're getting hired right away. I don't hesitate with that anymore. I want the best coaches, and I want the best programs and education for me and for my team. In the last 2 years, I've spent at least $30,000 in consulting, coaching, sales, marketing programs, and professional development for me and my team. If you would have told me that 9 years ago, I would have said, you're out of your mind. You're insane. But I know how much these programs can actually accelerate you if you dive in and you stick with your mentors, and how much they can help you and your team skip through the mess. So find those experts, find people who are flat out awesome, and always have a job search up. Even if you just hired for that role, keep that application on the internet. Let everybody know that you're always looking for excellent people. And if they're looking and they need to, they'll find it. So have that as a consistent announcement in your emails, on your Instagram. I'm not talking about every day, but if you can do it once a month and just put the word out there, you know how many people want to work in your industry? If you're a fitness or sport enthusiast, or you love yoga, or you love dance, right? How many people want to work in the same industry that you do? You love your thing. Other people love your thing. You get to work in it. They want to too. And they've probably got expertise that you don't have. So keep the word out when you're looking for anybody. And you should always be looking to build your teams, not only in numbers, but in quality. There are definitely some things I tried, but failed at. Number one, pricing. Early on, I charged way too little for what I wanted to provide. I should have charged more earlier, and I should have just known that I was giving a great service that people could pay for. So I might have been servicing the wrong client that couldn't afford sustaining my life. But I learned from that now. And so sometimes when you chase a certain financial goal, you will chase a certain price point, which means that you need to chase a certain client, right? So you can't ask people who are down on their luck to pay this immense amount of money because you want to be a millionaire. If you want to be a millionaire, you have to chase clients that can afford to pay for your services that will help you get there. I don't think that anything in my business has worked the first time I tried it. The only thing that we've been consistently good at is great coaching. Everybody leaves our court knowing that they got better, they want to be there. Our coaches have great attitudes. We make friends quickly. We explain things clearly. So coaching has always been the easiest and most successful part. And we always keep coming back to that. Let's be great coaches. Let's be great community people. Great coaches, great community people. Because if you have a great community, people keep coming back and it grows itself. Good community members find more people like them, and then it's easier and easier to run your business, right? Because you enjoy hanging out with your people. And that's where I'm at right now, where I enjoy hanging out with the people who come to our camps, who want to learn volleyball from us. And it's pretty fantastic. Every failure is not necessarily a failure. It's a chance for a pivot. For me, every time we had a big fail or we tried something as hard as we possibly could, drove it into the ground, made no money on it, or kept losing, or it kept staying hard, it gave us an opportunity to turn, change, find something new, or ditch it. If you try a program and it fails, we know this from sports. Failure is not a loss. It should be taking stats and learning. In volleyball, we coach that if you lose a point, you shouldn't get angry that you lose a point. You should try to figure out what position the other team was in, what position you were in, why they hit that ball, and how you lost it. If you can understand those concepts in your sport or your business, then you actually can learn from it. So you take those lessons into the next project or the next pivot, right? We pivoted during COVID. I pivoted when I got evicted from 2 different apartments that I was Airbnb-ing. We pivoted when we heard that people couldn't get enough time off from family and work to come to our 7-day camps. Now we run 3-day camps, and people love it because they only have to take 1 day off, just a Friday for their Saturday, Sunday. That was huge for us. We pivoted when we were running so many 1-day, 3 or 6 hour clinics, and we couldn't charge enough for those. We couldn't insert enough value in that time to be able to pay for our lives and pay for my employees. So we did away with any travel 1-day events. It didn't make sense. Now, if it's down the block from me, cool. I'll be there, for 6 hours. That only costs me 7 hours of my day. So I don't need to charge a price point that's going to take over 4 days. But when I have to travel for a 3-day event, I'm losing 5 days. And the people who can work on a plane or in a lounge, God bless you. But that is not me. I am awful at working on the road. And so when I travel or I go to events like that, I'm losing all of that time, all those days, not to mention all of the time with my daughter and my wife. So I don't do that anymore. I make sure that if we travel, it's for a 3 or a 7-day, a massive event that we can charge enough to leave enough on the table to feed my family and hopefully provide a future for my daughter. Now, I've said this before, but I was doing all of the cleaning for my Airbnbs, all of the turnovers. And, I had gotten a 3-star and I had gotten a 4-star in cleanliness. And that bugged me. So I said, you know what? I'm going to double down on cleaning. And so I spent 6 hours cleaning everything I thought I could clean in my apartment. I rented it out. I got 4 stars for cleanliness and I was fuming. So I didn't get fired up at this guy. I was just like, hey, I saw that you gave me a 4-star and I'm not trying to argue about it, But what I do want to know is, what did you see that made it a 4-star instead of a 5-star? I spent 6 hours cleaning it. I tried to do absolutely everything that I could. And, I still didn't earn your 5-star rating. And he talked to me about, smudges on vertical surfaces. Like there was a fingerprint on a cabinet, and the corners of beds weren't quite tucked. And this was stuff that I just couldn't see. I was blind to. So after giving that much on a final ditch effort, and it's still not being even what I would consider a B plus, I said, that's it. I'm hiring somebody who can help me clean and turn over these things. So within that first year, when we had gotten to our second Airbnb arbitrage, then I hired a cleaner, and I also said, hey, can you handle some emails? Can you handle some management? And I had heard a lot of podcasts about going on Upwork, finding virtual assistants and all that. And so, I put the word out on Instagram, and Allison found me, and she was so good for my first 2 years, but I had no idea how to manage. I had no idea how to lead somebody in my business, how to have clear cut goals for somebody in a business environment. I could do it when I was doing weight training. I could do it when I was doing workouts. When I was doing volleyball, we had clear cut goals and statistics, but I didn't know how to set them to be effective for an employee. And, I still feel bad for Allison, and still feel bad for some of the people that work for me now, because every now and then I just chase something new and I'll dump a lot on that plate. But what I've learned about myself is I get very creative. I throw a bunch of ideas at the wall, and as soon as I get that idea, I need it to exist somewhere. I need somebody to hear it or to read it so that I know that it's out there. So I've learned that what I need to ask of people, and the people that I need to hire, have to be able to take in conversational text, random flow for me, and clean it up, organize it, show me a step-by-step process of how it's going to work and how they're going to make it work, and then give me a clear timeline. Everybody who hasn't been able to do that for me, I've really stopped working with. Everybody who has always seen just quick elevation in their work and hours, because I'm like, yes, this person gets it. They can take my ideas and turn it into something real. So if you think that you're the creative, high energy, always going, always having a new idea type person, my recommendation is that you get somebody who loves spreadsheets, loves dotting I's, loves crossing T's. I know that sounds like it might be negative for a lot of people, like you're putting out a job application that people would hate or that they would turn away from. But some people really, truly do love to do that. They love to clean up messes and take something wacky, I guess, and put it into an organized form so that it works. Okay. I think we have engineers for that. We have business development people for that. Business managers, COOs. Okay. Those are the type of people who you need to be disgustingly organized so that they can handle all those processes. Okay. One of the things that I think, it's not, it's a negative for our business is that me and Brandon are both the idea guys, and neither one of us, right, at the top of our company, neither one of us are the extremely organized person, right? We got into it together. So we need to find other people who can organize, who can take great notes, who can put things into spreadsheets and then time them out and give us step-by-steps for how we're going to do things. In my business, we are always looking for new employees. And what I've learned is that I'm always open to a person who can handle a workload in an organized and in a fashion where they don't. In my business and my life, I'm always looking for somebody who is organized, who can tackle problems as an independent problem solver. What I mean by that is if I give you an issue, I don't want to hear after the first couple of days, hey, how do you? Hey, what do I do here? I want somebody that can, after I tell them, I want somebody that can find a way on their own to make something work. If you're going to ask me a question and I have to go to help support on our software when you could have gone to help support on your software, we're not going to be working together for very long if that continues beyond 2 or 3 times. So everybody who works for us has to be an independent problem solver. And that means that there's a lot of figuring out to do. And the people who you hire should be able to solve problems fast. One of the things, here's a cheat code for hiring. One of the things that I put on my job applications, especially on Upwork, is somewhere in my text, in the paragraph, I hide among all of the other words in just one sentence to make sure that you pay attention to detail. When you respond to this job post, in the subject line, you must write the word Gator. If I get a reply or an email or a response to that job post and it does not say Gator, I don't even open it. They don't have a chance. Do I miss out on maybe a couple of people who could have been great? Sure, but I 100% know that I need somebody who's going to pay attention to detail. And so they have to be able to read things carefully, and they want to, like I said, cross T's and dot I's. So that's a little cheat that you guys can use if you have job applications or you're hiring virtual assistants on Upwork. See if you can hide something in that paragraph or give them an initial test. Another test I like to give my virtual assistants is I like to say something very specific from one of my YouTube videos so that I know that they're looking at my company or that they research my company a little bit. So I'll say, like, what is the second of the 7 deadly setting sins? And if they can't Google it or understand that they're getting hired by Better at Beach Volleyball and Mark Burrick, and they can't understand like a little bit of Google searching and figuring out on their own where they can look into our universe, well, sorry, I'm not going to have you. Okay. I want somebody, again, who can solve problems from the start, enjoys solving problems. And if you find that person, the independent problem solver, hold on to them. Hold on to that employee, that person in your life as much as you can. If they enjoy solving problems and they work with you in a great way and they can display things organized and they go the extra mile, find a way to hold on to them. Oddly enough, I've got a beach volleyball company, but I don't enjoy talking about beach volleyball that much anymore. I always say, I don't really want to talk bump set spike as much as you think. So people are always asking me about setting, about passing, about spiking. And I've had the same conversation hundreds of thousands of times. I do enjoy getting to see an athlete get to the next level. I do enjoy being a part of that process and feeling their positivity, feeling their struggle, and then seeing them progress. But in my life, I started talking about business. So instead of volleyball, instead of coaching, I had mastered coaching and I mastered the game. I played it at a high level. And I realized one year that I had been doing that for so long, having the same conversation. And I said, if I continue to play and just play this game, am I going to become a better person, a better version of myself? And the answer to that was absolutely not. I might get 0.05% better at volleyball, and that might get me to that next level, to the semifinals and championships. But if I improved 80% quickly at a whole bunch of other skills and endeavors, I would see a whole nother side of life that would add to me as a person in the long run. So I decided to stop playing, and I decided to start having more business, real estate, financial, marketing conversations. And so now I'm in just as many volleyball chat groups with my volleyball friends as I am with people who I'm intentional with, who are entrepreneurs, real estate moguls, Airbnb masters. And so I am intentional about those conversations that I'm having now. And, just like when you fall into the same rhythm with your old high school friends or your old college buddies, it's easy to fall back into those conversations. And it's hard to actually walk away from them and have intent with the type of conversations that you have so that you think that you can learn from them. And that's where I'm at with business. And I learned that when my brother started his own business. He started Tradition Coffee Roasters, which is a coffee subscription and roastery tours in Hawaii. And I enjoyed teaching him and showing him about business and giving him new ideas and problem solving there, because I knew how to solve every problem in beach volleyball, but it became really challenging and fun and exciting to try to solve problems for different people in different companies and different businesses in the business world. And so that's where I'm at now. And that's why this podcast exists. Social media is a tough game. And a lot of people chase followers and likes, and we're learning that that's only part of it. Recently, I started the DM Me campaign, where at the end of every interesting video, the ones that people like, that enjoy, that they learn from, that they would share and send to their friends and save anyway, those are the videos that we're now adding little sales pitches to the back of. And if you see my Instagram right now at the time that we're filming, you'll see a lot of DM Me set if you want our 30-day setting program, or DM Me jump if you want our volleyball workout program. Okay. Now we're very intentful with, we're not trying to grow subscribers. We're trying to get sales or make sales easier, or at least bring those conversations in the door. Now, in order to do that, you need to entertain, you need to educate, you need to provide value, as they say. Okay. Value can be in the form of entertainment, just getting their attention, but you need to get their attention some way. Follower numbers and likes, yeah, maybe there's some compoundness to that, but remember that your goal is building your business. And for most businesses, the only way to build is by getting dollars in the door. So now we've given years of free education and training out to people through YouTube and through Instagram. So I'm not shy at all about putting a DM Me if you want to join my program at the end of a video. I think that it's been working. I get between 20 and 30 DMs per day, and I have my virtual assistants post about 3 times per day. And we know what our audience wants to see. And so we give them that. And then at the end, it's a thanks for watching. If you want to dive deeper with us, DM me this. And then it opens up that conversation, which has been really good and really impactful for us. So remember that if you're chasing followers, that's nonsense. What you're chasing is sales. And the way to do that sometimes is by getting followers, getting saves, getting likes. But if you get 2 followers and one of them buys your program, you don't need a ton of followers. You need 100, and then you get 50, your year's paid for. So we're going to wrap up this episode. That's all I want to talk about today. That's all the questions I want to answer from our producers. And I do want to just give you guys some encouragement. If you're going slow, keep finding coaches, keep finding great people to work with. Don't work in a silo or a vacuum. Make sure that you're talking about your problems consistently. Talk about your problems with people who have been through it. It's really not worth sharing your problems with people who are not in that form of business. They might steer you the wrong way because they don't have any experience. So share your problems intentionally with the people who you think could actually solve them. And hopefully you'll get to the next step. If you are so inclined, go ahead, give us a subscribe, give us a follow, maybe a rating on our podcast, and we will have our website up and running. But for now, we're just hanging out with the podcast. I'm going to try to share free education from all the lessons I've learned with you, and we'll get our guests on so that we can learn from a lot of them. If you want to become a guest on the Athletic Startup Podcast and share your story and talk about your business and your path, then please DM me on Instagram at Mark Burrick, MarkBurik. I'll be happy to hear from you, and we'll schedule a little interview with you. That's all from me and the Athletic Startup Podcast. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for listening.